Hello everyone, Andy Schwab here with your Northern Ag TV. We've had the opportunity to make our way to Casper for the annual Wyoming Stockgrowers Winter Roundup, and standing with me now, Executive Director of the Wyoming Stockgrowers, Mr. Jim McGagnon. Jim, it seems like there's a lot of producers here, and it seems like there's a little bit of optimism and some smiles when we saw them walking in the front door.
Well, you read this just right, Andy, and I was pleased when I came up here because our pre-registration was higher than it's been in recent years, and we've had a lot of people just showing up here. So it's been a good crowd. Certainly are issues to deal with, always are, but overall I think the attitude is as positive as I've seen in recent years.
And another thing I'm looking at behind our shoulders here is a very full trade show.
It is a full trade show. In fact, our limitation is the space we have for a trade show. We could have more, but we're limited by the facility, the amount of room for that. But we've had good participation, and I always look, sometimes I get a little nervous that the people at the trade show booth aren't getting enough attention, but I see a lot of people wandering around talking with them. Whether they're making purchases or not, I can't verify, but they're building relationships.
Absolutely, a great trade show for sure. Well, let's get into some of the topics. I mean, we got a lot of policy meetings coming up. We have a lot of informational, informative sessions for these producers to learn from. But talk about some of those policy meetings you're looking forward to, and maybe some of the things you're hearing so far.
Well, certainly we were pleased this morning to hear from Ethan Lane with NCBA, because a lot of the excitement, a lot of the enthusiasm right now, it's based on a number of things, the cattle market obviously, but also on the potential we see to make some changes with the new administration coming in January that will be more favorable to our industry. So that's, I think, is part of what's driving this. So it was good to hear Ethan's message, and particularly, and I hope everyone took this to heart, and I preach this as well, that just because we elect the right people doesn't mean we can stay home and say we'll be taken care of. This is our opportunity. We need to work harder in 2025 and 26 than we did the past 4 years in order to come out with some favorable policies that have some longevity to them.
Absolutely, a really good point. You know, as we take it from the national level to the state level, we're also going to see the Wyoming legislative session kick off here not too far from now. Any particular state level policies you guys would like to talk about?
Well, the legislature itself is going to be a bit of a new experience because we had a rather large turnover of legislators. We've got the more conservative component of the Republican Party is now providing the leadership, and there are some good people there we work well with. But, you know, I think back to 1965 when the majority of the members of the Wyoming Senate were members of Wyoming Stockgrowers Association. That's not the true today. We've got a few good ag people in the legislature. Certainly our governor is a great cattle producer, but we have to educate other people on the importance of agriculture, not just for us as ag producers, but to the culture of the state, to the other economic drivers in this state like recreation and tourism that all depend on the wide open spaces that we protect for them. So there's going to be some education due. There are a few issues that are going to get a lot of our attention. Certainly taxes. There's a lot of talk about property tax relief again, and while that's good, it can be done in a way that could potentially longer term be harmful to agriculture and our taxation. So we want to be very vigilant about that. We've got somewhat of a surprise just came up, and I just spent a whole hour talking with one of our committees about this, that our Wyoming Supreme Court ruled about 5 weeks ago that based on a provision in our Constitution that all state trust lands, which mostly are leased for grazing and agricultural purpose, are now taxable by the county assessors. And not taxable, but are to be taxed. Okay. So we've got some work to do on that front. We were able to shut down an effort by our state land office to immediately start imposing that burden on the lessors. Now we've got to work with our legislature to find some longer term answers. So that's certainly a high profile issue with us today.
And a lot more policy discussion going to be happening here at the annual Wyoming Stockgrowers Winter Roundup in Casper. Come back with me in 30 seconds as we'll take a look at some of your ag markets and hopefully see some of these higher cattle prices from that Pays Blue Ribbon sale, which is taking place as we speak.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Welcome back, everyone, to your Northern Ag TV, as one of the biggest tests of the bread cow markets is happening in Billings right now. That, of course, is the Pays Blue Ribbon sale, and they started yesterday. Get to work through the rest of this afternoon and finish off with some of those weigh-up cows. Now, Brett McCray, our very own Brett McCray, that is, spoke with Ty Thompson, cattle sale manager, as he said that even though prices are a little bit higher, the return on investment is certainly worth the price.
If the economy stays good and the demand stays good, these bred females are just a real buy compared to the feeder market. They do seem higher than what we've been given, but you've seen this feeder market explode back in the last 3 weeks to surpass our summertime highs. I really feel we get into February, we'll be short enough of these cows that you'll see this bred cow market come up. So if you've got to feed them until February, March, April, I think you probably make yourself some money, as I do believe these bred cows will just continue creeping up following the feeder market.
Now, early on, those prices at that Pays Blue Ribbon test saw those young cows having a top price of $34.25. Speaking of some of the prices from the bred test market, we did see Torrington Livestock on Monday having their young bred cows average just over $32.50, while bred heifers split that $3,000 per head mark. When you turn to the grain markets, we saw that latest USDA World Ag Supply and Demand Estimates report come in mostly where we expected it to. However, the Ag Department did call for higher wheat exports for the U.S. and less from Russia, which certainly helped out the wheat market. Row crops also fared pretty well themselves, as corn exports, that is, and ethanol crush were a larger degree than anticipated. Soybeans were a little less eventful, but they were still able to notch nickel gains themselves on the board. Well, that is going to wrap us up here in Casper at the Wyoming Stockgrowers annual winter roundup, but we'll have more from that coverage in the coming days as well, and talk to some of our producers as well. From the Northern Ag Network, I'm Andy Schwab. Have a great rest of your day.